If Overwatch lives and breathes, ladies and gentlemen, then we are coming to you live from its beating heart. That's right, Anaheim, starting to feel the tremors of what is to come in our Overwatch 2022 playoffs. Matthew, what an exciting time it is. Finally, we get our top cut of Overwatch League teams from across the world. 12 of the very best converging at the Anaheim Convention Center to vie for supremacy and, of course, the championship title.
Yeah, finally, right? It feels like a very long time these teams have been battling through, regionals, the mid-season tournament, right? And, to just play-ins to get here to this moment, have everybody under one roof, being able to see the best Overwatch played with all of the new kind of additions which came through with the balance updates, Rico, new maps. It'll be exciting to see.
Absolutely. So much ground to cover, so much as well unknown territory. We really are on the bleeding edge of developments here in the professional Overwatch scene, and we have two teams to take this new patch for a spin up first. That's right, those sheets and those chairs rather are nice and shiny, and these players are about to plonk themselves in them and show us what they've been working on. The Philadelphia Fusion and the London Spitfire. Both of these teams, it's been a long time since they've gone head-to-head, of course, and it is a rematch of teams from our very first ever Grand Final match that you and I had the pleasure of presiding over in New York at the Barclays Center. These two teams have been able to avoid play-ins, crucially, so they've both had plenty of time to acclimate to this new patch and prepare something special for us today.
Yeah, but both teams do come in with their own flaws, right? London, they have a style of play that they would ideally like to play, a rush style of play, basically right around that Reinhardt with his hottie specialty. But sometimes that's always not in the meta, right? Whether Zarya comes in again or kind of stays in the meta, or maybe we see some Winston. Could end up affecting London's game a little bit. And Philly, I think, as a franchise is, they've had awesome teams going into these big moments that we've had, and just for whatever reason, not able to get the job done.
It's been a pretty tough season for the Philadelphia Fusion, Matthew. They, in fact, come into our 2022 playoffs with a negative win to loss. Not by a whole lot, but by all accounts, they've very much snuck in here to the playoff cutoff in that eastern region. This is a team that has had high highs and some pretty low lows across the course of the year, but they've been able to adapt. They've been able to keep pace with many of the front runners. So many of the matchups that featured the Fusion and the Seoul Dynasty, for example, a team that we tout as one of the very best in the East, went to 5 maps. So this Philadelphia Fusion team definitely knows how to take it to those top teams. A really tough matchup on their hands today, as well as we have a different look at the roster as venerated captain of yesteryear comes in. Carpe will be playing at DPS.
And what does he bring to the table, right? We've heard teams maybe experimenting, playing some Tracer here in this meta coming into playoffs. Is that what we see from Carpe? Zest has been very good throughout the season, so to not have him available here for the playoffs is pretty difficult.
Again, the last time these two teams played was back in 2019. With Zest out of the picture for the time being, the Fusion are going to have to rely on something else. And it was highlighted on the desk. I think Scott wanted to make a real point of this, that when Carpe did come in, despite his detractors, despite people sort of criticizing his ability to keep up with these young guns that keep getting brought into teams like the Fusion, he had a really solid showing on this team. He's a veteran. He's obviously had to flex those leadership muscles a heck of a lot. And this team, ups and downs. But again, I'm expecting to see big things from them as they've had time to prepare for this patch. And you'll notice that Bellisria here in the starting lineup, quite often a play we saw on dive tanks for the Philadelphia Fusion. We'll expand upon that in a moment. Let's now bring out the London Spitfire, a team again who really have blown our expectations out of the water this year, Matthew.
Yeah, and look, I think you kind of thought this team would be like a fringe playoff team. They were really good throughout periods of the season. Admiral and Landon, in terms of the supports here to start things off, I think that means you're not going to really see any of those flex supports. Maybe we see some of Rico, maybe we see some Lucio in play. And then even when kind of Zarya was strong at points, they still kind of kept Hottie in. So Hottie will stay in that tank role. But for me, huge matchup here, Mitch, is between Sparker and MN3. I think that it's going to be a crazy matchup, as we've seen both of them play some insane Sojourn all year long.
Yeah, during the countdown cup, I think Sparker been excellent all year, but really came alive on the Sojourn. Again, was noted in the pre-show. The kind of player setting up a lot of those early picks that were not always able to be capitalized upon by the rest of his team. He does come out of the Countdown Cup #1 in hero damage on Sojourn, crucially second in solo kills. Something, again, that's very closely tied to the ability to manufacture a first pick to give your team that 5 versus 4 and enable you to ease into a fight that you hope to win based on that player advantage. This match is not an elimination match for either of these two teams. The loser would then fall down to the lower bracket, but still a lot on the line. You really want to avoid these hungry teams also falling down to the lower bracket, and that fight for survival is scary.
Especially when, well, I think it actually, so it's obviously not an elimination match, but with a new meta kind of forming, I think you would really go into panic mode losing this match for either of these teams. If you're London, it's like, do you have the roster to be flexible enough to cover the different types of things we could see throughout this playoff week? And if you're Philly, it just kind of breeds into more of the same, in which has kind of happened and plagued them throughout playoffs in their history.
Of course, ladies and gentlemen, this will be a first to 3 series here. Loser selecting maps. Lijiang Tower going to be coming up first. And we wait with bated breath here to see what these teams have developed in the time that they've had. The Spitfire being at 6th place in the West region, like I mentioned, are able to circumvent that grueling play-in stage that saw Florida Mayhem just go absolutely hog wild on their opposition. So you'd think they've been prepping something. But what we normally see from Hardy, of course, is very Reinhardt-centric play. This is a patch, this is a meta that may not allow for that as smoothly as before, but London have always bucked the trend. Every time they've been told you can't play Ryan in this meta, they bring him out, they play Mei, especially on control maps, and they frustrate the heck out of their opponents. We'll see if they're able to get away with it here, or if it's something different up their sleeves.
And you know, how much experience, let's say if they did end up pulling some of those Reinhardt different compositions out, does Philly have against that type of playstyle? I don't think much. But I also just don't think Reinhardt is in a spot right now that's going to be quite useful in this type of meta. I think you're going to be looking at more, you know, if you're going to play Karika and you play Karika to be strong, right, with the things that she provides, you're going to play an aggressive style of play, right? You're going to be playing fast. So you're going to be looking at characters like Winston, even Sojourn, who can get into the mix and brawl a little bit more for a longer range damage dealer, as looks like both teams here at the start. You know, Winston as the tank with the Lucio Carrico as that backline, and then yeah, Reaper in the mix with Sojourn. So Reaper really going to try and become a nuisance to the enemy Winston.
Bellisria so low early on, perhaps not expecting the Reaper there, but Carpe is also on that particular pick. Landon, of course, able to capitalize on that large Winston headbox and find him there with one of those knives. A great opening here with Bellisria already out of the mix for Philly. Not an auspicious start for them.
Yeah, and you don't know what actually he took that large chunk of damage from. It could have been a Sojourn rail shot. Could have been Reaper. I also like, you know, it could have been like a rail shot plus like the Carrico headshot, right? The Carrico headshot does triple damage. I mean, can really take out an enemy quickly, and that's going to be NM3 hitting a rail shot on the Spark.
It's the perfect opening here. Just as Spark is starting to get comfortable, and as the team holding the point, he can play in a pocket of safety. He gets picked out of the mix pretty much straight away. And now the Fusion will look to try and hold the bridge as much as they can, or at least try and telegraph the enemy Winston's movements towards them here. Bear in mind, a lot of free Sojourn charge coming off of these Winston bubbles, so may see more of those rails here as the Fusion give up the point.
They just get bullied off. They get that first pick, they flip for a little bit, and then they just get bullied back off of the point here by London. So London able to get control again. Both teams will have their Karika ult, so expect to see loads of damage and fast action coming soon.
Here it is, Kitsune rush from Aimgod. They're trying to catch Hardy in the middle of their team, and he gets absolutely blown to smithereens. A good opener, both teams lay down the roads as Carpe wants to push out here. The sound barrier used by Fixer, something not available to the Spitfire in that fight, and maybe a key component in them regaining control at some point. Backbone needs to be wary.
And I think even if London had that sound barrier, it's better off to save it, because now you can come in and engage with the sound barrier, connects on to everybody, and look at this, they get a kill right away.
That's classy. Bellisria caught out of position at the start of that fight. He gets moved to the side as the Spitfire engage with that sound barrier. He's forced to look on in dismay as the rest of his team are sent to the chop shop.
You just need that sound barrier, right? They use the overclock there as well for Sparker to just get high charge on that Sojourn, just hit a rail shot quick. See, if Philly tries to push in here, Mitch, you could end up seeing like a Death Blossom from Backbone, but you're not even going to need it.
Unbelievable picks here from Sparker. First up on MN3. Protection Susie thrown down there. It's getting a little bit dicey for Carpe. He's trying to farm Hardy for a little bit of that help, but he gets turned into an edgy pancake. As the Winston jump claims him, and the Spitfire now head to 72%. Crucially, Death Blossom available here for both sides, and that Primal Rage will be in play.
Yeah, but just how does Philly attack this? Like, London is playing so close and so aggro that if Philly is going to try and get towards that point, they're probably going to have to spend a ton of ultimates to do so. And when they get there, it's probably going to be like close to 95% for London, where London can save and be pretty conservative in this fight and then just come back and win one more.
ZMN3 again, who serves that pickup on a platter. But do the Fusion need to really fight for their meal here? They definitely don't seem like Apex Predators right now. That's a Death Blossom there. That was from Backbone. Carpe's going to get out with the Wraith Walk here, and Belisari is trying to disperse the Spitfire as well as he can across the point. MN3 with the overclock. It's a lot of damage, mostly just getting pumped into Hardy right now, who's able to get away. Lands not so lucky though. His head gets a steaming hole bored through it, and Carpe's able to bring Sparker down. The Fusion, they fight doggedly for this point, but as you highlighted, Matthew, the Spitfire will have plenty of time to get back in the driver's seat.
Plenty of time. I think this next fight, though, will be pretty interesting and pretty telling about how, this could go, where London could end up using this Kitsune Rush and getting the point back rather quickly. But Philly, a really good counter to that is you can just kind of send that Reaper in with the Death Blossom, just force everybody out of that area so they lose some of that attack speed.
Protection Suzu could buy you a little bit of time to get away from the epicenter of that Death Blossom. But if Carpe positions this correctly, Spitfire won't know what is coming. Again, Sparker, much like MN3 has been, probing here at the start of these fights. Nothing easy to farm for this charge until the bubble comes down. He can build some of that up, but MN3's already found Admiral. Headshot with the railgun. The perfect antidote here to whatever the Spitfire were cooking up. And they're out of the picture again.
So they had to use Sound Barrier to engage there and go in and make a play, but you're looking at like last fight territory, so at least Philly gives themselves a puncher's chance here at the end, right? With how good Sojourn is, with like some one-shot potentials. You see MN3 just trying to farm some damage there to be able to get like a high-powered rail. One shot, whether it be on like a Lucio or a Rico, seals the deal for your team.
Carpe trying to preempt the fight. He managed to catch Sparker immediately. So now the sound barrier only applied to 4 players. Carpe's able to disengage while most of this sound barrier expires. And that ace in the hole for the London Spitfire gets used a little prematurely here. Lander, it looks like also there was a Casino Rush involved in that last fight. So the Spitfire now a little underarmed as they try to approach the point once more. And Belisari going for the Primal Rage. Was hoping for a knockback kill, but look at the damage on him there. He'll circle back, but Sparker and Backbone have already done their fair share of damage. Belisari are in Primal, that's expired, he's down, and it's only Aim God left. Nowhere to jump to here as the London Spitfire come out on top. This one is going to be quite the brawl.
Very back and forth though, and you just see how powerful the overclock is. And Sparker was, towards the later half of the season, right? One of the better Sojourns we had, in the Western region. Really able to come up with clutch plays time and time again. So Admiral, nice movement on the Lucio, able to get in, get that touch, but Sparker and Backbone seal the deal there for London.
For MN3, so many of his kills, in fact, almost all of them come as first picks in those fights, right? Which is huge to open up those engagements. When Backbone just gets to throw himself into the mix here, you see he waits for a Carpe already forward to Sparker, so crazy to say that this is almost overkill in this situation. Saw the protection Suzu used there by Aim God. No one really able to benefit from that is just Belisari getting lit up for a moment and then eventually getting cut down to size.
Yes, no comp changes here going into the next round here on Lijiang Tower. As I think these are going to be some of the comps that we see throughout like a majority of the playoffs. Reaper really good, in terms of like self-survivability and also putting pressure onto that. Winston has a little bit of an invuln of himself, being able to escape with a Wraith form. And then Sojourn, we know how powerful she is at the highest levels of play. I mean, just being, the players just nail these shots so easy.
With those Zen in play, you definitely need something else to answer just a very large health fall off the Winston. Sparker charged up here, Matt. Oh, a lot of pressure being put down there. Philly extremely low. Not in a great position to contest right now. MN3 hope to find a railgun there as he peeks the left-hand side. Comes up with very little, and the Spitfire doing a great job of just bullying the Fusion away from the objective here. Again, Belisari's out of position for the time being. He kind of gets knocked across on the left-hand side. The Spitfire are happy for the Fusion to figure out how to get to them first.
That first fight, the real difference there, where it's like Sparker hits a rail shot and just gets a player or two weak and just backs them up. But it's going to be the Kitsune Rush right away, the protection there, giving everybody the involved for a little bit, and then Billy's going to die.
Okay, that's enough to clear the Spitfire away, but eventually they're going to look to be coming back to reclaim what's theirs. Point does get flipped into this fight here, and it's going to be a sound barrier now for the Fusion, who want to hold on to this. But it comes a little later from the Spitfire, which means right now they have that extra durability advantage. Sparker doesn't opt to go for a railgun here. The Fusion again just gets shoved away from the objective, then a point split back.
London just seems to have a great understanding of like the pace and flow of the game right now in terms of the meta, right? Where they know that they can back off for a quick second, give up for a little bit, and they know they have the ultimates, the abilities, just in general, to be able to flip that right back and get the advantage. It's two players with that Death Blossom. Belzria has to use Primal, and he's going to get absolutely nothing for it. London in complete control.
Regardless of the metagame, this is actually something London are very good at doing, right? They control the point, they push up, and then someone just gets a little out of position. In that case, it was AimGod, who had to swift step away, but he'd already taken so much damage, and Hardy had a jump available. They go in, they block Chinico. That's a great way to begin the fight. This is a very effective zoning augment for the most part here. Belisarea cops one sweet. Beres is forced back for even longer at 72%. This is a mirror image of last round so far. How do the Fusion get back in now with that MN3?
And you also have Hadi with a Primal Rage, right? As they try and push in, use some of that speed. Death Blossom, that's going to result in nothing as they're just so desperate, Mitch, just trying to make it towards the point.
Carpe just looking for anything at this stage. Still, London gives them absolutely nothing. It's a late Kitsune Rush from the Spitfire, and they're going to use this to capitalize here. This is so classy from the London Spitfire, Matt. They know that Kitsune Rush has a limited length, so they disengage, such that the Fusion have to move off of their own Kiriko ultimate and lose that haste bonus. And then they use one of their own as they're getting pushed into. Lovely stuff from the London Spitfire. Just their comprehension about, like you said, Matt, the way this metagame works, at least in this matchup, really shining through.
And you can see where they put down that Kitsune Rush, where Hadi was actually able to, you know, get in the middle of it, use some of it on the outside, and dip back into it, and then go to the other side and go, you know, attend to some players and put some pressure down, and still have that haste buff. Really good use of the character there at the start of the London Spitfire.
Yeah, great opening, and again, Backbone really critical on that Reaper. You know, in terms of skill expression in that hero, not always easy to show you the highest of heights and the peaks of what Reaper is capable of doing. But Backbone's the perfect kind of player to put him on like a consistent output hero that has a very impactful area of effect ultimate. He's exactly where he needs to be. He stays alive, and he's there when it counts. Nice stuff here for the London Spitfire. Good opener is Philadelphia now left scratching their heads. How do they answer this? They're losing out in the mirror.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Upper Deck, the official trading card of the Overwatch League. And by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
Claim event perks live at the Overwatch League Playoffs and Grand Finals through the mobile app. Get all broadcast perks, plus 100 tokens, new in-game cosmetics, an exclusive spray, and all new drops across games. Tickets available now.
And so it's a shell-shocked Philadelphia Fusion that we see as they meet the initial onslaught of the London Spitfire. A team who we raised a bunch of questions about, Matt. Can they acclimate to this meta? Does Hardy have what it takes to strap on that Winston and just go absolutely wild? The answer, I guess, to both questions is yes. London, with their coaching staff, who we've just spent a lot of time complimenting this season, have crafted a style that seems to suit their approach really well. They're an aggressive, relentless team who love to identify and then make the most of small gaps, small opportunities to push in and get a fight win. Very impressive opening from London.
Yeah, and although it's like a Winston-based comp, right, you wouldn't necessarily call it something like reminiscent of a dive, right? Like if you kind of subbed out the Winston for, let's say, like a Zarya, you would probably be calling this comp that looks very similar to something like a rush style of play, which is right in the London Spitfire's wheelhouse. Like that's the exact style of play they want to do. So at least after that map 1, good things looking for the London Spitfire. Yeah,
really enjoyed the way they managed to get a lot of value out of Reaper. Again, we discussed it a little bit. The backlines here, quite often, you know, you're looking for a bit of utility from your supports. The kind of utility, in some cases, when you use Zenyatta, that can let you pressure down tanks a little bit easier, especially ones that don't have static shielding. But because that's not available, because Kiriko obviously is very powerful and Lucio is required for that burst of speed, you bring Reaper in, who's just a bona fide tank killer. It's his job to really start cutting into that Winston's health pool as soon as he turns up. Eichenwald is going to be our next map in the series.
Yeah, and Philly, you picked this, right? This is a little bit more of like a dive-centric map that has some high ground control that you're going to need to have here. So maybe they can throw the London Spitfire off. But we've seen London put together some really good performances on this map throughout the season. So although an interesting pick here from Philly, I still think London's going to be very strong and effective.
This was the kind of map, by the way, that people took the London Spitfire to during their Reinhardt and May days to try and punish like their lack of range with that composition. London still would manufacture ways of turning the terrain of the map to their advantage, even when they're attacking on that, you know, that precipitous climb in the second phase where you really feel like it can be oppressive to play into enemy high ground plus long-range hit scan. They still manage to find ways to make it work. Philly don't want to change their composition here. They're very much locked into this. And again, a lot of the focus is going to be on how effectively Hardy's going to be able to close the gap and start to pressure into the fusion. I just want to say, Matt, it seems like Philly have been very happy to give a lot of ground in that first map, right? You mentioned they were getting bullied away a lot. It definitely seemed like they were disengaging quite frequently, you know, at the risk of just getting blown out in a straight-up fight.
Yeah, and I think you probably see them disengage because I thought actually in the first map, you know, Sparker was doing a great job nailing some of those shots on the Sojourn, right? Those rail shots can just take like large chunks of HP from an opponent. And also there's like not a lot of like burst healing, right? Like you don't have like a Baptiste like regenerative burst or just the healing that he provides. Like you're playing Lucio. Oh, Rico, and that's a beautiful shot there. Dude, we've seen Backbone do that.
Oh, there's the smile.
Backbone not,
he put an L in chat.
Historically, not historically a Widowmaker player, but has been able to do that time and time again.
Oh, he's got to let him know, doesn't he, Matt? Backbone switching over to Reaper now because his work ostensibly is done. No Sojourn at the start of the fight for the Philadelphia Fusion. They have to disengage there, no doubt about it. Find a way to come back in here. And in they go. Here's the dive. Bellisria booped up and going to be blown up pretty quickly. He's not going to get out. There's going to be protection Suzu employed to make sure he can walk away in one piece. The London Spitfire almost 3 ticks on this point already. And oh god, the Fusion step off the point.
It's playoff time. You can tell by the way the Philly Fusion are playing right now. So, oh man, is no, not the best of starts right now from Philly is. You know what? I mean, London now 5:30 plus on the clock. You gotta have like some type of like big play, I feel like, happen for Philly, right? You get like a fight win, you know, something really goes your way. You can start to build some momentum because right now, London, I mean, every time we go to like individual shots and player camps, right? Everybody's laughing, they're loose. They feel like they have a great understanding of the game.
They don't let up, do they? The London Spitfire, they can take it though. Don't worry. There've been many teams that have been more than happy to have fun at their expense in years gone by, but now they've worked for this to be a team that can threaten the likes of the Fusion, and they're making the most of it in the match chat. Philly, though, very much focused on the next phase of the plan, which is go, oh God, help us, oh God, stop the Spitfire at all costs. They've got to Kitsune Rush up their sleeve here. They've got to keep Carpe alive. The Okuda able to reach him. And here's Kitsune Rush from both teams out. This is going to be pretty intense, man.
I mean, just so much damage that's unanswered. But you have the sound barrier available for the London Spitfire first. Let's see if they can capitalize in that brief moment. They do. They get a kill on Aim.
Yeah, that's huge. Fixer went for the sound barrier, but Aimgold wasn't able to capitalize, or benefit from it, rather. Now Sparker can peer in from the periphery, but Backbone's able to clean up Carpe with the Death Blossom. MN3 finding an exit kill, we'll call it, as he backs on away. Very quiet start for the Fusion here.
And you also had a little bit of a window there where Admiral had the sound barrier and the Philadelphia Fusion are still kind of like building up towards it. And Philly gets it probably like, I don't know, like 3-4 seconds after, but that's enough for London to locate a player who's weak and finish him off, which is Aimgold.
Sparker's overclocked.
Oh, you lose Carpe.
Gets picked off at the start, apropos of absolutely nothing as far as we can tell.
He just walks up to the car.
He must be trying to LOS with it, right? Maybe he doesn't expect a face full of Hellfire shotgun pellets from Backbone. And that's another checkpoint given up by the Fusion. They had 4 players alive. They're under a lot of pressure, granted. But it's not a great look either, as the Spitfire now are absolutely blasting through the map. There, Backbone. Love a little bit of checkers.
Yeah, being able to get that teleport in midair. I saw a clip, Seagull playing Symmetra. He was able to get a sick teleport back on the map. Just the tech here, man. This is an insane time from the London Spitfire. 4 minutes plus to take the final point. And it's not even just the final point, Mitch. Like, they're going to get, like, almost around this corner where the end of the map is right there.
Carpe just trying to keep people away from the card here. You notice he's really not extending outside of the payload sphere of influence. Hardy dives in, but not too deep. It's going to be another Kitsune Rush deployed here. Aimgold doesn't have his yet. Backbone's going to be firing it extremely fast, and I think the Fusion know we can't fight them inside this ultimate.
Yes, I mean, what do you do? I mean, Sparker's able to get 2. You have the Reaper on the cart. You can't get rid of him. Vixa touches. Aimgold has nobody to teleport to, and that is a full... This is a Philadelphia map pick. And the London Spitfire, on their opponent's map pick, just runs it down, finishes the map with the 407 in the bank.
I mean, I'm watching Aimgold try to heal Fixer, right, with the Ofudo. It's like he's trying to give out, like, you know, first-class tickets to Morbius, and Fixer's like, no, I don't want that. You can't get any of the healing because the bloody bubble just got dropped on top of the card, and not a lot going on. So, London Spitfire feeling very good. 20 final blows for the whole of the Spitfire. 8 of those for Backbone, 7 for Sparker. A paltry 5 for the Philadelphia Fusion. Oh dear, they are not ready for this. Carpe unable to get on the board with that Reaper, whereas Backbone has been cutting a bloody swath through his opponents.
And I think the London Spitfire in the chat, they were talking about Secret Agent and James Bond. I assume, you know, Carpe is a thing in COD, you know, you put up that 0-7, the 007. It was a little James Bond style line there to start the half. That's rough.
Admiral, look at this. Now, Swift Step's available, but he touches the... Okay, so he touches the death zone before that ability can actually activate. Now, bear in mind, there is
like a little bit of a channel to it, yeah.
Right, and there also was an invulnerability window with that ability. But invulnerability sort of frames don't really care about environmental deaths. You sort of will die regardless of those that overwrites them. And plus, that invulnerability phase has been cut much shorter in the latest patch.
So how do you bounce back from this if you're Philly? Like,
bro, you need Carpe.
You chose
Carpe to wake up.
Yeah.
You Carpe, there it is. Okay.
In there it is, yeah.
Cuckoo clock going off there. Backbone going to be dispatched early here. MN3 has a pocket to play in, and Admiral's not able to get out of his line of sight quickly enough. Good start for the Fusion here. 2 big picks to open things up. The Spitfire maybe not expecting the Fusion to probe in that particular manner. Carpe just had that one on a silver platter, but he'll take it.
Yeah, beautiful start there. I mean, you kind of, I asked, like, how do you bounce back if you're Philly? And that's exactly how, right? You end up getting Carpe in, getting Carpe a kill, MN3 able to hit a nice rail shot. I think even if you don't get the best game from Carpe, you know, MN3 starts to do some of the things that we've seen throughout his run throughout the season on the Sojourn. It doesn't really even matter what happens with your Reaper, right? I think you can really start to turn the tide.
That's a great point. I mean, can you expect that out of MN3, right? Who's, you know, obviously coming into this team pretty fresh start of the year.
I don't want to say it's easy to play great during the regular season. It's not. But, you know, you got some teams in the regular season not up to par with some of the way that some of the teams here in the playoffs are going to play. Like, now is the time you got to show up. Like, it's great you show up in, you know, week 2 of the Summer Showdown, but really, this is what matters the most. If you can't put those performances here in the playoffs and against the top teams, it kind of goes for naught.
Interestingly there, Backbone again gets caught right at the start of that fight there. Is the Spitfire defensively finding a little bit hard to navigate their Winston composition?
This is looking good for Philly, dude, too. Look, I mean, you're going to have 5 ults coming into this fight. Admiral not even close to sound barrier with how fast these fights have gone in favor of the Philadelphia Fusion. As you're in a spot where Philly, where you could actually put yourself in a position if you win this fight to actually end up with like more time in the bank going into that final checkpoint.
Bear in mind, these shots pierce. Fusion definitely going to break line of sight and trying to avoid clumping up there around the card. Hardy trying to stop them here as they go in. Sound barrier for Fixanails. Landon's going to go with the Kitsune rush him in 3. Much of this damage being dedicated to the enemy Winston. He needs to get him out of the picture here. Over the top, he comes again. Ain't God. Oh dear, okay. Yeah. Can't get out of that. He actually switch steps to a teammate as he goes over the edge and gets caught in that death blossom by Backbone, who now turning up here in the second half.
I tell you what, though, man, that was the fight that they needed to win for the Philadelphia Fusion. Now you're going to allow the London Spitfire to stabilize here, get control of the top of the castle. The Sparker is going to be able to rain down. I mean, this is such a good angle for the Sojourn. Like, you do not want to be trying to fight that angle from low to high, trying to hit those shots. See the Disruptor shot just end up there, like kind of forces them off of that ledge, just trying to get them into that castle.
Another Disruptor shot will be up here for Sparker, which gets extra annoying if you try and take the stairs as the Fusion. They instead opt to, well, dally a little bit here. They're trying to get the Junkenstein challenges, fair enough. Cramped by their land, boys. Primer rage here for Bellisria.
Disruptor shot just knocks, puts a way to get through the door, just blocks it, and look at that. Bellisria goes right over the top, and the London Spitfire, they just sound barrier and speed boost right on through, and Backbone just insta-kills Carpet.
That's not the first time that the London Spitfire have done that. This is characteristic of them, and we saw it actually on Lijiang Tower Garden, right? Bellisria tries to engage, he gets booped to the side, and then Admiral sound barriers speed boosts the rest of the team in. Bellisria is caught outside the play.
Oh. What's terrible for Philly as well, as it took like, what? It took like a minute off the clock to set all of that up, and it was over in seconds. I mean, they really got nothing for it. Look at this, Hottie just getting a good survey of the land, seeing where everybody's moving for the Philadelphia Fusion. They can set up this next fight.
Sparker losing charge here as he's not made contact with a foe for a minute, but he's still maintained a little bit. Disrupt the shot, giving a tickle there. Hardy emerges within the midst of the Philadelphia Fusion now. Okay, Kitsune rush now off towards that right-hand side here. Carpe forced away by the Primer Rage Winston, but Hardy takes a licking as a result. Still able to play around the card. Philadelphia, they want to push this in. It's Backbone's Death Blossom though. That is a death knell for the Fusion. It's another push getting stuffed.
And Hottie has been so aggressive, man. Getting into the backline of the Philadelphia Fusion, and they have not made him pay for it at all. I mean, how many times do we see Bellisria just jump in, and he's getting hit with whether it's like a headshot from the Kariko and some Sojourn and Reaper damage, and he's like basically dead by the time he gets in there. They are not punishing Hottie at all.
Also Admiral. Admiral's making it impossible for Bellisria to actually get in a position to get damage off of his jump, let alone be in range to actually do damage with their Tesla cannon. Keep an eye on how Admiral just repositions Bellisria as he tries to engage. It's really frustrating for the Fusion who can't get him in that position. Again, we're fighting in the castle. Another great place to disrupt the shot, and everybody's lined up. This could be scary. And then 3 gets taken down. Sparker just has to wildly aim to the turning mass of Fusion bodies as they try and push their way up the stairway.
There.
Absolutely nothing for that.
He Death Blossomed in that corner to try and maybe like they were going to bait in, run on in, and nobody took the bait there from London. Is what they have to back out here. Things have gone terribly for the Philadelphia Fusion after their point A take.
Philly can't read London. I mean, Carpe's expecting them to follow up on that, but they already get 2 kills from that engagement.
And you see where like Hottie's playing. It's like, they're almost kind of like stalking the Philadelphia Fusion. It's like, okay, we'll let you guys get in that position. and then they just start positioning London around them and collapse on them from so many different angles, and Philly can't do anything about it.
He might be waiting as well for MN3 to use his slide, because he knows that there's no mobility for the Sojourn to evade him as he tries to jump in. And then he probably calls his boys, come out the trees and start knocking heads. Here come the Fusion, grouped up now. Past the disruptor shot, MN3 doesn't have a good angle to make use of this overclock, but he's got no choice. He has to try and find some value here. But it's Spitfire sitting in the corner. They're just waiting. 2 support ultimates online, but MN3 is able to find backbone at the start of the fight. It's a good opener, to be sure. Kitsune Rush used here, but the Spitfire in no position to come out and stand upon that hallowed ground. They're forced back inside the castle. And finally, the Fusion finds some picks from MN3. Bit of a Hail Mary, but they'll take it.
Well, the MN3 gets a really good first pick, but they also, Carpe turns around, and with Vixa, they take care of Hadi instantly. Hadi just trying to be a nuisance in the backline time and time again, was not getting punished at all. That time they adjust, they turn, they take him out fast, and they're able to win the fight.
It's an air rush here for the Fusion, they're far from done. Again, the Spitfire disengaged. Make it so the Fusion can't benefit from that haste. Well, they'll return to that area, but great disengage, something we've seen a bunch from the Spitfire. Admiral really has this on lock. To the high ground goes Hardy now, he'll just tickle from that corner. Backbone hoping to punish Bellisria as he repositions as well. Wraithwalk had to be used. Not a lot of burst healing for the Fusion, so it will take a while to get Bellisria fighting fit once more.
And London's okay with this. Like, they're okay with Philadelphia just kind of like posturing and playing a little bit slow here because of how much time they have in the bank.
Bellisria finds himself just in the middle of that bubble with Backbone. He's trying to dance it. Spark is just able to find a window to get an easy headshot kill.
And I feel like this is like the wrong approach with a meta like this. I feel like you just need to take as many fights as possible. As a big Death Blossom with the Disruptor shot making it difficult for players to get out. Because, you know, there's so much burst damage here, Mitch, that like if you just play slow and wait to just try and get the perfect fight, the fight ends before you even have a chance, right? Whether it's like a Raper shotgun, like insta-kill in close range, a railgun shot, that I think you just need to take constant fights with a meta like this.
Down barrier for the Fusion, they're going forward here. Both support ultimates from the Spitfire and the Fusion are a long way away from the cart. No chance of touching there. And I love what you mentioned, right, about the idea of just trying to take these fights early and often. The Fusion might be playing with the mindset of a previous meta where your fights were predicated on the ability to get it, pick with Sojourn, or allow your Genji to zero in on a low health target and then jump in and make the assassination, speeding the rest of your team in. Now, you don't really need anything special to start these fights. You need your Reaper in a good spot, close enough to the enemy tank, and you need that speed boost available. That's about it. The Spitfire say, we can make the Taj Mahal with, you know, Flit and Tinder right now. We're willing to use very little to turn it into a winning fight. And you'll see the stats if you get a chance to. So many fights taken by the Spitfire, even when they're ostensibly in control of objectives. We saw that on Control a bunch before. Philadelphia will have to find a response, maybe get their land legs here as the London Spitfire constantly keeping them off balance. Stick around and see if this team for the East has got enough game to hang with the Spitfire. "222 days since our screens were last graced by the Overwatch League. So good to be back, of course.
The Nano at the ready for Crimso could give this Marvel or Striker on the attack visor. He wants mini room control, but got zoned off by Foles, but he's gonna come back around. Full 360, Striker coming from the backline and the kids. 4K, he strikes again as Foles goes back to spawn.
Oh, the prodigal son of the Boston fans has returned home. Did you miss him, Boston? Happy. Might find themselves an angle here as they take a look. Sees Twilight, what in the world was that? Someone call E-Sick. There's no way Happy hits those. All those!
Oh my god! And okay, the Zarya's cool, but she got a lot of health. Okay?
Sheesh!
Are we gonna be in someone's YouTube video? Do I gotta shout out my mom? Happy. You're cracked.
Paddy a little bit scared of Finn. I would be too, to be fair. He's got a lot of utility. Nano available. Nano blade for Sam. He dashes straight to the backline. Insta-killing Landon. Sparker dead. Backbone 2. There's Admiral. Another 5K. No! Proper steals it. Come on, man. Oh, you're supposed to give him the clip. Sam, though, still with 4 kills. Nice work.
The Fjord's doing a great job of draining time off this objective, and Pelican gets caught in for a little bit too long. However, Merritt, as Attack Visor gets 2, looking for a little bit more. You're looking at Pelican, you're not looking at Merritt, he's got 3, and the Outlaws, that should be enough to take the point.
That should definitely be it. The good thing here for Fuel is that they built a lot of time on the clock. This is going to go down there, but Merritt getting a lot there, a lot of value, and this is just continuing to show as the fight breaks down, Soldier is so dangerous.
The Mayhem didn't really have a chance to respond there with ults of their own.
Nope, I take it back. I take it back. Nero proved me wrong. Nero proved me wrong again.
Are you serious, Nero? That was a massive anti from Ultraviolet. Nanoed. Nero with the 5k. Okay, there's the smile that I wanted to see. Forget map number 1. Eichenwalde is yours. Oh my god. Oh, okay, so this is the anti-nade that set the entire thing up. Oh my god. What is more satisfying than that? I cannot name a single thing.
Carpe again! And M3, he's going absolutely nuclear! Just dashes and instantly finds 3 kills. Leading the charge of his team application matrix as well, but Fury, excellent gravity flux.
Spark had the numbers, but Balestria has the space. The mines! The double kill!
Shot through Aim God. He's looking for the elimination. He goes on the offensive, but Aim God shuts him down. Everybody really low inside of the valley. Nixa gets 2 for himself. Okay.
There's still time to get your tickets, that's right. Join us at the Overwatch League Grand Finals and catch Leah Denise and Charisse Booth, the voice actors for Junker Queen and Sojourn, live. Tickets are on sale now. Come hang with us in Anaheim. Eventually they're gonna pry me out of this garage and bloody send me over there as well so we can all enjoy the vibes together, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be absolutely mental. No better place to return than the Anaheim Convention Center, which is, I mean, for me, Matt, it's really the epicenter of where some of the most incredible moments of Overwatch have occurred.
Overwatch, I mean, I'd been there for like amazing Call of Duty events throughout the year, just like an awesome esports venue, just so many great events that have happened there, where I'm excited to see, you know, with obviously the first 2 maps of the playoffs in the books, kind of how things shake out for the rest of the field as we go towards next week.
Absolutely. If this is anything to go by, the play in this meta is going to be fast and furious. You'll notice that neither of these teams really making any changes, any sort of you know, to the lineups, right, in terms of our hero compositions. They are sticking with very much the same formula all the way through, Matt. London just seemed to be better. I mean, Philly better hope that Route 66 ain't the end of the line, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you know, what was, you know, Game of Thrones Season 1, it was like a life for a life, right? I feel like, you know, hexagrams to get the Eagles back on track, sacrifice the Philadelphia Fusion. They look dead right now, man. I mean, that's tough, the way they lost Eichenwalde, because they actually put together a really good offense on point A. It was just after that, things fell apart. I think they gotta up their pace of play. Like, I think just, you know, with how this meta is, and I think, like, how fast some of these kills and fights go down, and I think just historically in Overwatch, like, the more fights you take, I think, like, the better off you are. It just seemed really slow for the second part of the map. They end up having, like, 4 minutes plus going into that B checkpoint, you know, trying to attack that castle, and they just kind of, like, walked around for a minute plus before that second fight took off. And what happens? You know, Backbone just kills Carpe instantly. Nothing even happened. by the time you get to the next fight, right, you burn about 1:40 on the clock. It's impossible to recover from stuff like that.
Well, for this sort of more moderate healing output that Lucio and Moira and Kiriko, provides, there's not much you can really do about being in the middle of the fight and then a Reaper headshot.
You're too used to playing on live, talking about Moira.
Yeah, God help me. I mean, but if you get headshot by a Reaper, there's no way you're coming back from that. There's just not enough time to get you topped up. Maybe if you've got an incredible Kiriko, she can throw down a protection Suzu, but that's it.
Backbone excels at these Widow headshots off the rip. Let's see. Everybody playing close, though, for Philly.
They don't know that because they're obviously not using a Sonic Arrow like the days of old to scout this out. But they're well aware now as Hardy pops his head up there to look over the back fence and sees his neighbors having an absolute party. And God has the Suzu himself, steps away.
Yeah, he has to TP pretty far away over to MN3 to be able to live there, and has to use the invuln on himself before even using the Swift Step. So you have some of those cooldowns down now. You see Philly playing a little bit further back now. Hottie goes deep there trying to make a play for MN3 in the high ground.
Fellas, Rhea gets caught. Yeah, it's going to be traded though. MN3 and Spark are both striking blunt here. London Spitfire probably happy with an exchange like that now, as Carpe wanted to buy a couple more seconds, comes out of that rate walk. A couple extra shots in the backbone to force him away. And Aimgod's knives go to work.
Yeah, because I think that's the right move for Philly. You have to play close. I think playing close probably gives you like 3 fights versus 2. You get another fight here and then probably another one there at the end.
Oh, man.
With a kill on an Aimgod. That is massive. You have no, invuln there. The healing output of Kiriko is really strong. As everybody just kind of has to just run on in, try and get his kills, and maybe trade here. It's not going to work out for Philly.
And you see Sparker's timing is immaculate there. He knows that Belisari is going to try and deploy a projected barrier mid-flight because he's worried about getting headshot on his way in. In the days of old, Winston's used to turn their back on their dive target so they couldn't be headshot, like by a Widow, for example. But he actually gets a charged rail headshot just before Belisari deploys that bubble. So the timing's perfect, and it's like a half-health Winston that touches the ground, and then he gets swarmed on by the rest of the Spitfire. Not the start I think the Philadelphia were looking for here. They trade up at every occasion to Carpe. Oh, buddy. Fish out of water, am I right?
Yes, that'll be point A taken there by the London Spitfire. And it's interesting, in the break, I actually saw, Crimzo kind of tweet whether it was like power rankings about the teams right now, but he also expected to kind of put a note that he expected to see like a little bit of crazier results with a meta like this. And I think you can kind of see why, right? With like Sojourns being able to just like one-shot players before fights even kick off, how new Kiriko is. I think when you look at teams who have these like really strong Sojourn players who can pop off at any time, those are ones you could look at for maybe creating some upsets, where Spark are playing lights out today.
MN3, nothing doing when it comes to those railgun headshots. He's got to find something here. Landon's already dealt with Carpe. The kunai come flying thick and fast when you're standing inside that Kitsune rush. Very, very scary, especially if you're getting consecutive headshots on large targets like Winston. The Spitfire now want to slow things down just a little bit, but Spark is not able to get on the same program as the rest of the Spitfire quite in time. Belisari here, most of what he's doing is trying to check Hardy's position with this primal range.
You saw Sparker a little bit further out and decided to make a play in. To be honest, you needed to make a play at that moment in time because you were getting absolutely nothing from the rest of the squad, and now you lose MN3. Sound barrier used for both teams here, just trying to keep players alive, as maybe you can now push back up to the cart and gain some control for Philly.
Carpe and Belisari are on the docket here to try and get them out of the situation they've found themselves in. So they do. They pressure forward. Hardy eventually gets caught out. Later in the fight, Carpe's able to come alive. Sparker returns over the flourish. He's able to find that one elimination with the help of Landon. And Backbone wants to keep fighting. Again, London exemplify this keep going play style they've been showing us.
Well, Reaper is so difficult to just dislodge from areas, especially when you're playing that Winston, because he's so tanky, whether it be the lifesteal, you have a Wraith form for some, invulnerability, you have the protection Shuju now for invuln as well. Lots of ways to just keep Reaper just surviving on the point where, yeah, if the enemy Reaper's down and, you're kind of like in an even matchup, you push forward if yours is alive. Use that Reaper as like a battering ram.
Here come the fusion. They get caught on the high ground though, and look at Hardy sort of slowing them quite effectively. He gives up his life in order to do so though. The London Spitfire though still get what they came for, don't they, Matthew? Another checkpoint to their name. Really just have to try and make this a convincing fight win. Try and generate some ult charge. start to dig in for the next phase of the map.
Yeah, if you're Philly, you need to stop the bleeding, right, so to speak. You need to play close here. You need to rattle off a few fights in a row. Because, you know, you lose a fight, you're going to give that ultimate advantage over to London Spitfire with the way the game looks right now. And they're just going to walk this thing home with how they've been playing so far.
God there trying to stay mid-range as much as possible. Away from the Reaper, but close enough that the healing doesn't take too long to get to Velasrea. Travel time on healing, something that we haven't really explored much in Overwatch. It's much of it's instantaneous. Oh, there it is, MN3. Big pick there. The Fusion not in a position to take like a full fight quite yet, but they'll move up here and posture more aggressively.
I think they should be playing more aggressively the entire series, right? Like, you know, they end up like backing up to play from this corner, and that continuing rush comes in. Like, they end up having to back up even more. They give up some space there, like force London to use those ultimates like right outside of their spawn door, as opposed to just kind of inviting them in and giving them some payload progress. You know, not a ton of progress, but still, it's something.
Brazen play there from Velasrea. Even if he was in Primal Rage, he looks to try and cut Backbone away from the rest of his team. He's able to do so for the most part, but he'll be back for more. Backbone absolutely doggedly pursuing the back line. Great beat timing there. A second later, and that's the end of MN3. He still goes down anyway as Backbone gets his teeth in and won't let go. AimGod, meanwhile, out of the picture here. Very scary healing situation now for the Fusion. Carpe has to turn tail again. Philadelphia constantly being staved off by the Spitfire, fight after fight.
They disrupt sure shot damage enough to take out Carpe at the end, so Velasrea has to jump onto the point, but you see how weak he is right off the rip.
Yeah, he's in deep trouble. Again, the healing comes quicker from Kiriko with that haste buff, but it's just not enough to keep him alive. Not against the burst damage of Sparker from on top of the truck here. Carpe trying to go for a gambit, looking for a Death Blossom, and only comes up with Admiral. And that is far, far too little.
And dude, it's difficult to finish this map in general, but to finish with a minute 29 in the time bank, it's just another gut punch, I think, to Philly, where this is their map selection yet again, as you just see London has such a command over the flow of the game right now, in my opinion.
And again, you said you'd like to see Philly just be more aggressive in general. You know, I know that obviously having to play without Zest changes the calculus a little bit, right? There's no doubt about it. But getting Carpe into a position where he can succeed is such an important part of making this composition work. He's been able to make a couple plays alongside Velasrea, right? Late in the fight sometimes, they're able to coordinate. But Sparker's been all over MN3 in terms of finding those first picks in these fights.
But when you look at like the comps, so Mitch, right? It's not like you're missing out like Zest playing like, you know, something that is highly mechanical, right? Like a Genji, an Echo, a Tracer, right? I feel like the Reaper is just mostly like positioning, cooldown management, decision making, right? Like, although Carpe has not played a ton, this is still a pick that we've seen from Carpe in the past. He should be able to play it at a high level here.
Having a slightly better time than the last couple of maps is all well and good for Carpe, but it's going to take more than that to put the Fusion in a position where they can actually have tempo. That's the word I'm looking for. I don't think the Fusion have had any sort of tempo throughout this entire series. London just are more than happy to engage very quickly. I do wonder like how London divine their win condition in some of these fights, right? A lot of the time, Backbone is trying to wade through the massive bodies and just find MN3.
It looks like Backbone was setting up there for some kind of TP up on the high ground. Had the button hovered, but look at this. Interesting that London will allow them around the corner here. Maybe they want to just give them some space to just kind of maybe have Philly actually split themselves off from each other. You know, force Philly to play aggressive.
We'll give Backbone like an easy flank route that includes a health pack along the way. Might be the answer. Oh, okay, he doesn't expect Carpe to be behind him, so he takes a bunch of damage, gets the Suzu treatment. Fusion are grouped up here, except for MN3 playing on the cart. I think London just neglect that, or leave him. They think they can take a 5v4, but Sparker immediately blown up.
Like mending a shadow.
You see how much, you know, the Kuriko's used just kind of for offensive purposes, right? You know, that triple headshot damage really strong, you know, especially on squishies, but even for the Winston, as you know, Philly has done a nice job here getting the cart moving here right off the rip. London can't lose control of this high ground here on Big Earls.
Tough for Kiriko to find good damage when there's a Winston bubble in play. She does nothing to them, generally. Really hard to break them. And doesn't want to be inside one for risk of just getting too close. She's very fragile if she gets caught out. Hardy is picked off though. So the Fusion, this is where they have to go. You think of the player advantage, they really need to pressure it a bit more. Okay, Kitsune Rush going to be in their face. Carpe's going to be rebuffed from the backline he intended to get to there. Spitfire hold it a little bit longer, but Admiral obviously not opting to sound barrier here. Stall if he can, but there won't be much in this defense for the Spitfire.
And the fights that they've been successful in, the Philadelphia Fusion, it's been MN3 getting a pick off on the Sojourn, which I think, even for London, they've been really good, at that as well, capitalizing. And then making Hadi pay for jumping into that backline. That time it was, Fixa with some help from Carpe. Once that happens, you're able to push the Reaper and the rest of the squad in rather, easily. And it's good things that happen for the Philly Fusion. They gotta punish Hadi more. You see, once he jumps in, he gets close to that backline, gotta make him pay.
Credit to MN3 there. The big pickers. Carpe was getting turned away with nothing after that first engagement. Again, they try to access him, and Hardy's able to find the response. Crucial way to even the ledger somewhat, and Hardy even going to stop off for a mega, as his team's pretty dispersed at the moment. See Backbone sort of tracking back a little bit here. Angol wanted to follow Carpe in there with the swift step. Fortunately, there's going to be a sound barrier in play from Fixer, and Backbone cannot hold up in the middle of this Fusion melee.
And this is really good for the Philly Fusion. You needed to get some type of momentum back in your favor. Nice body blocking here. Velastria just preventing some of those players to walk on through back towards the spawn, as you're going to get Sparker because of that. You have the primal here too. You can play up on this high ground. You can actually just play for this door yet again. Philly could put themselves in a good position to finish the map.
They definitely have some ground to make up. When the Spitfire were in this position, Philly ended up, well, not being able to touch the card even though they had all their players.
The lower route, yeah.
I think Hardy scouted with that jump. That was all it was really supposed to be, but they had to act quickly, and they've lost MN3. Or rather, they've lost Landon. MN3 was able to sit up on that high ground with the London Spitfire choosing oddly not to engage in that fight. They just get picked off. MN3 has his slide to be able to get away here. Hardy's going to have to look elsewhere. Right now, you'll be seeing nothing, sent back to spawn, and here come the Fusion now in this last phase of the map.
And you see how different the game looks when they're able to protect MN3. Hardy's not back there causing problems, putting bubbles down, causing issues. And you give him lanes to shoot from, and he's as good of anybody in the league as Sojourn, and you hit those shots, it just forces London back, or it just gives you an advantage early on in the fight.
Velastria able to drive a wedge between the two sides of the Spitfire now, but gets caught a little bit too close to the thorns here. Backbone brings him down. Fusion forced to back away slowly here. Plenty of time to work with for Philly. It is tough to defend with Winston-based compositions. We see it on many maps here. London are getting a couple of these individuals caught out, namely Backbone sometimes just overextending ever so slightly. That's another big pick from MN3. I don't know how he expected to see Sparker coming on that flanking route.
And that was Sparker's overclock as well. Sparker was coming from that angle with the overclock and just trying to maybe get a pinch on with the rest of his team. But MN3 with a headshot takes him right out, and he's got an overclock, and he can sit up on top of this trailer. I mean, this could be, an even faster time than London.
The Fusion can create a safe pocket for MN3. This ultimate could be devastating. This is quite the narrowed lane to play in right now. MN3 sliding away. Suzu has to be used there. Not available here. And MN3 might be macabre artwork if he's not careful. No, sound barrier timed as well. But of course, Kitsune Rush here for the London Spitfire. They double it up with the sound barrier. The Fusion don't want to peek into that. So they wait a little bit, and here's that overclock from MN3.
Yeah, you see everybody trying to get behind some type of cover here for the London Spitfire. Waited out, but MN3 gets right in the mix.
Might be the man right now, Matthew. In the moment, MN3 comes alive. The London Spitfire now struggling to answer the threat that is his Sojourn. But Carpe is going to be brought down by Admiral now. The brute force aspect of the Fusion's lineup has been taken out of the picture for now. And Hardy's able to force MN3 away by nothing but his vault. This is a great spot for this from Backbone. Pix is opening well, and the Death Blossom yields a team fight win.
Oh, and that got dangerous there as the payload's so close to completing the map. As what had to happen there, Mitch, is everybody from the London Spitfire trying to come outside of that the spawn door from the left, and that's where like Velastria and the rest of the team's playing. And Hadi can't really go back to help them because he has to be the one contesting the points. So he's set on the point to whose job is it to clear that area out. It's Backbone. He gets over there fast with a speed boost, gets the Death Blossom right in the mix, and takes a few players out. That was massive.
Once more into the breach for the Fusion. Carpe has a Death Blossom this time around. First, forces Backbone away. That rank 4 plus mega health pack means that his opposite number will be safe for now. Pretty early Winston bubble used there by Hardy. But Landon is able to pick Belos Ria out somehow. Getting rid of the enemy Winston, Philadelphia. Their spear is no tip.
Yeah, and he's, you know, obviously not going to be, you know, a target to be teleported to from the Kuriko because not going to TP into your own death. And Lucio's not going to be able to get over there to heal anyway. So Belos Ria really with there's no like honor, you know, Zen to be able to heal a little bit at range. As soon as you break that line of sight and you're in a little bit too deep, there's no helping you.
Philly now have less time to get the map done than the Spitfire have in their bank. Just getting the map done at all is going to be their main priority here. Spark is able to force Fixer to run away here, meaning Aimgod's the only one with the proximity to heal properly, and even he's out of the picture now. Spark is just able to pick Belos Ria out of the mix, and again, the towering Titan for the Fusion picked off early, and Aimgod even, oh man, he even went for the ultimate.
Yeah, it's what I mean, Carpe, you see him underneath. Phalo go try and TP away. London, they get that fight win. They hold on to Primal, which is going to be great to stall. They have Sound Barrier, and they're going to have the Casino Rush. I mean, they are in a perfect position to win this. I think if you're Philly, you know, you're looking at what? Does Carpe have, you know, an Overwatch 1 Season 1 Death Blossom kind of in the mix, right, that takes out everybody? I think it's more reliant on MN3 to hit some of these shots.
Carpe doesn't get where he needs to be, or so he thinks, but Hardy was a decent target for him. The Primal Rage, though, makes it harder to capitalize on. Kitsune Rush now down for the Spitfire. The Sound Barrier is going to be there as well. Backbone coming in with the Death Blossom, and MN3 is felled. Belos Ria clinging to life, and you know what they say, Matt, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Once again, the London Spitfire dominate the Fusion in a post-season game. What a showing from this Spitfire. Really hard to have criticisms of their play in this match.
I mean, no, they look lights out awesome in this matchup against the Philadelphia Fusion. They look like they had a real understanding of how this meta is supposed to be played. Sparker, you know, goes toe-to-toe with, you know, MN3, who's fantastic on the Sojourn himself. London with a really good first win here.
And what a proof of concept for their take on the current meta. Looks like they've had plenty of time to work on it. Looking very, very clean. On occasion, right, the usual suspects for the Fusion turn up. Or the usual suspects, rather, as MN3 is able to show us some death-defying antics on that Sojourn. But it's not enough. Even with Carpe having a much better map on that Reaper, his performance is not able to sort of take things over the top for the Philadelphia Fusion. But outside of the individual, I think our biggest criticism is leveled at the Fusion's hesitancy. I mean, their lack of interest in sort of taking these fights early and often, and their difficulty in getting Belos Ria into a position to actually pressure backlines.
It felt like they started to get in a little bit of a groove there late on Route 66, but you know, it's so late in terms of the game and the series, right, that you put yourself so far behind. It just felt like a little, you know, too little, too late. Which, you know, now you drop into the loser bracket for Philly. I mean, there's going to be killers down there, right? I mean, there's not going to be a tough team in that, not going to be a easy team in that loser bracket. So I think if you're Philly, you got to watch this VOD again, go over what you can improve on. But I think I agree with you. Just up the speed of play, pace of play.
Let's talk play of the match now, Matthew, in this first playoff game. It's the one, the only, the German dynamo known as Hardy, leading from the front, like all good leaders should. From start to finish, a squeaky clean performance on Winston, a hero that he faced a ton of criticism on, especially last year. People said he was feeding, he was dying too often, out of position, you name it. It was leveled at this guy. But now his game has been taken to another level. The hard work that he's purported to have put in, absolutely paying off. This first delegate from the Eastern region, absolutely shell-shocked by the Spitfire's relentless assault.
Yeah, and I think what you saw from Hardy, specifically in those first two maps, he was able to just cause so many problems for the Philadelphia Fusion backline and MN3, and there was no response from Philly for those first two maps. And that's why they were able to really dominate the London Spitfire. This third map, Route 66, they definitely made it harder on Hardy, but a fantastic series on the Winston.
No doubt about it. Dealing with Winston, you know, going into a lot of these Reaper-based compositions, is always a pretty scary prospect. And yet, Hardy has less than 4 deaths per 10 minutes, which is a really very, very good result for a hero like Winston, who needs to be in the enemy team's face, who only has very limited windows of durability based around his bubble. The fact that he's able to get away with having such a high impact with this over 20 eliminations per 10 minutes, he's involved in every fight in a very key way, and the rest of his team are preventing him from falling to these really nasty tank killers like Reaper. Great showing from Hardy, really important, another step in the evolution of this London Spitfire team. It must feel good for them to come on, into this tournament with even footing with a lot of teams. They've had a decent amount of time to acclimate to the change and patch, and this metagame, I don't think Philadelphia are going to be the first of their victims in this regard. There should be a lot of teams, even from the Western region, even who placed higher than the Spitfire, that should feel it going forward,
Yes.
man.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think with the way that this meta looks to be shaking out, favors teams like the London Spitfire, who can play this fast, aggressive, brawly style of play constantly, but also have a really good Sojourn there, in that backline, able to nail shots like Sparker. So I think teams like, London, I'm excited to see, some of the other teams like the Gladiators play in Dallas in this type of meta. I think it's going to be really interesting.
That's it. There's much more, of course, to come from today's matches. Ladies and gentlemen, so stick around for more of your Overwatch League 2022 playoffs. Don't go anywhere.
I'm on the shot, guys. I'm pushing main, I go Reaper one, solo, so one.
Let's go. Nice, boys. Nice. Spitfire sweep.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Butterfinger. Crispity, crunchity, peanut buttery. No one lays a finger on your Butterfinger.
Welcome back to the Watchpoint desk here for our game break, and we now have Backbone from the London Spitfire joining us for a quick word after a convincing victory. Backbone, congratulations, how are you feeling?
Thank you, feeling very good.
Very good, wonderful, we take that. Now, you went up against the Philadelphia Fusion. Obviously, that's a historical matchup for everyone watching, not so much for the players playing though. You also didn't, I assume, got exposed to them very much this season, given that you're playing in different regions. So what was your preparation looking like heading into that match against the Philadelphia Fusion?
We weren't really prepping specifically for them. We were just playing what we thought, is good, what we know most teams are playing. Yeah, just playing like the matchup today. That's what most teams play, so it's not anything new. It wasn't really any specific Philly practice. We weren't really scared of them at all, to be honest.
Not scared at all. Well, talking about what's good, I wasn't expecting to see this much Reaper in the meta. Give me the lowdown. What makes Reaper so good with the Winston and the Kiriko?
I mean, the Kiriko makes Reaper, all of Reaper's worst parts are better. The new DPS passive with Reaper makes him really strong. You get a limb, you get faster and better reload speed. That's two of his weakest points. And then Monkey's just Monkey. He's just good anyway. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Monkey's Monkey.
Yeah.
So I feel like London Spitfire, you guys are just like perpetually, underrated and underdogs into every series, of course. So how are you kind of like using that as fuel going into this playoffs, and how far ultimately do you guys think you can go this playoffs?
I mean, I don't think anyone really expects us to go far at all. I mean, no one's expected anything from us at any point
Danny
this season.
does, actually.
Yeah, Danny does. Danny's always got our back. No, but I mean, we're just having fun. I mean, I don't know if you heard at the end of that route with the after comms, but there was a lot of barking going on. There's a lot of barking going on in our comms right now.
We heard London Spitfire sweep.
London sweep.
Yeah, there's a lot of just we're just having fun. Like, so many of the teams here feel the pressure that they need to win or get to finals. We're just here to have fun.
Awesome. We love to hear that, and we can't wait to see more from you guys in these playoffs. So once again, thank you so much for joining us, and big congratulations to the first W.
Thank you.
Cheers, Backbone.
Right on. So let's dive into the match highlights. 3-0. Not really a result any of us would have expected.
We were all wrong.
Yeah, we're all wrong except from Danny.
Good job, Danny.
You're doing great, Danny. But I do want to talk about what I feel like is a little bit of a disappointing look here from the Philadelphia Fusion. They played so passive with a composition which doesn't really allow for you to play that way.
Yeah, it was an interesting look. The reason we predicted the Philadelphia Fusion is they've shown better performances on this dive. They have good coordination, but none of that was really on showcase in this match. They were flat-footed, they were slow, and that really allowed London Spitfire to be the aggressors in a lot of ways, and they were aggressive to say nonetheless. Hardy was getting in there, not being punished, and Backbone, Death Blossom after Death Blossom getting maximum value, so Ultimate's being used better as well. Other than MN3 coming alive on that Route 66 on the Sojourn, falling a little flat, and very disappointing first performance from the Fusion.
Yeah, I think if anything, maybe you'd want to see them force Tracer duels more, because we know Carpe is a fantastic Tracer player, right? And while we know that Backbone, maybe not the strongest Tracer around the league either, so maybe Fusion, looking back on this, are there other maps in the pool where we perhaps could have forced a Tracer duel instead of a Reaper? Definitely seems like Reaper is here to stay and is going to be the mainstay so far, but there are other teams around the league that are probably looking at this matchup themselves going, oh boy, we gotta play Reaper the entire time, it's going to be tough for us.
Yeah, and I think Backbone made a really great point. I didn't think about it when we added that new DPS passive of you get an elimination, you get more reload speed, movement speed. That really plays into everything that makes Reaper a weak hero, so that is why he is really coming through. So something we weren't expecting, but you should get used to it. It might be a staple for these playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's exciting to watch, isn't it? But I reinforce, Backbone just said it best, monkey is monkey. So let's discuss that very topic, because I really felt like the Philadelphia Fusion, they didn't really play that Winston like you're supposed to be playing. You're supposed to take up space. You're supposed to be aggressive and do something for your team, but one of the two Winstons just kind of stayed back.
Yeah, I think Belos Ria from Fusion, he fell a bit flat in this matchup and really just like handed on a Spitfire a pretty uncontested win here. If you want to break it down, big picture, I think a Winston generally has two jobs, right? It's contesting space and it's disrupting the enemy team, right? And Fusion, they didn't really get to contesting the enemy backline because they just had so much trouble controlling space, right? So Belosria, taking a look at the stats against Hadi, of course they lost 3-0. They are going to look bad, okay? I don't want to overemphasize on how bad these stats are because they did suffer a brutal loss. But what I want to highlight is almost twice the deaths right there, and also the lower knockback kills and final blows. It really didn't feel like Belosria wanted to go in there. I want to highlight on these specific highlights right here. Belosria, he's almost like away from the fight. He's so scared of contesting the Reaper from the Lone Spitfire that he's trying to stay out of these fights. He's doing big leaps up into the air. He's not really being present within the fights themselves. I'd rather see him, you know, create some space for the rest of his team here. Be like in the front line and try to at least make it a challenge for the Lone Spitfire to grab this space to get into these fights. This jump right here, just jump straight into the cart. You cannot do that. And you see he's immediately headshot by the enemy Sojourn, 100 HP, and then he's out of the fight. Instead, utilize the high ground on your surroundings, because you can jump to the high ground, wait a couple seconds, and you get that leap back quicker, right? He didn't try to do anything of that. Instead, it was either all in and he died to the Reaper, or it's like, oh, I'm gonna jump in and then kind of be like, you know, have fun, guys. I don't want to be part of this. So a bit disappointing.
It was strange because watching that, it almost looked like he was not doing the shot calling. Like, he was just kind of following suit with the rest of his team. But really, when you're playing that Winston, you kind of have to be the aggressor. You kind of have to call the shots there.
I do want to give a little bit of credit to London, because even in the very first team fight that we saw for them, Belosria jumped in, tried to take that space, and London was like, absolutely not. And that really set the tempo for the rest of the series. So Belosria needs to go back to the drawing board and the entire Philadelphia Fusion to find a way to enable them.
Yeah, you have to find a way. You have to find a way to contest the enemy team and know your limits. You can't shy away from your job as a Winston because you're scared of a Reaper, you're scared of getting picked. You sort of have to do your job in a serviceable way. But Belosria, he just stayed out of the fight most of the time, and when he did go in, it was just head first and like, please don't dive. You know, it's 2 meters,
like,
you know, with the pool or whatever.
Winston has to like do calculated overextension. That's kind of how you have to play Winston.
I love it. Calculated overextension.
It's kind of what you do, right?
It's Johnny's career in a nutshell.
It doesn't work out for everyone, though. That's a problem. Now, I do want to quickly preview our upcoming match. It's going to be the Spark going up against the Shanghai Dragons. The Dragons coming in, of course, as the favorite here. But I would like to take some time to take a look at who needs to level it up. In Leveling Up, presented by Butterfinger Costa, which of these teams need to really step up their game for this one?
It has to be the Hangzhou Spark. This is a team that in our last international tournament, the Mid-Season Madness, had an incredible performance on the back of Shy's Sojourn. This is something that they can lean back on again, but as of late, in the last two stages, in the Summer Showdown, in the Countdown Cup, they have been struggling. They need to level up. Look at this, 1-5 in the Summer Showdown, 1-5 in the Countdown Cup. If they can get back to that previous performance that we saw in the Kickoff Clash in the Mid-Season Madness, they could be in for a run. They played well in the play-ins, and that's why they're here today. Need to keep that going for them.
Now, I do also want to get a quick hint at what we could expect or hope map-wise, because he's going to be our map guy.
Johnny the map guy.
Johnny the map guy.
I'll be your guide.
He has like
things you don't want to hear.
He killed
from
at least 5 trees to get every information humanly possible printed out on everything map related. So what do the stats say?
Well, I will tell you this. Out of all the playoff teams, Hangzhou Spark, they are the 3rd best hybrid team.
Oh, wow.
So the second map looking pretty good for that. They are the worst escort team by far. They have like a 32% win rate on escort. So if you go down 2-0 in the series and you have to win escort, bad look for the Hangzhou Spark. If I'm a Hangzhou Spark fan, I want to see them win hybrid or control to give me an opportunity to get the push, and then maybe we can win out the series.
All right, there you have it. I hope the Hangzhou Spark listened in on that segment. Good information to have.
So bad at escorts.
Now, I do want to take a look at our Preds, although I doubt we're going to see any surprises. However, I mean, Danny, you know, like...
Yeah,
we didn't talk about Shy. Shy is like one of the best Sojourns. So he could throw this for a loop.
But they can't just keep relying on Shy to kill everybody. Your strategy cannot be Shy, go kill everyone.
Actually,
it worked in the Mid-Season Madness, but Shanghai Dragons are the 2021 champions, and they are such a well-rounded team. I don't think they're going to give Shy the opportunity to do that, especially when the guy on the other Sojourn is Lip, probably the best Sojourn we have in the world.
True.
So
Yeah.
Spark have a tough task ahead of them.
Absolutely. Let's see if they can get it done. For now, we're heading into a very quick break, and then afterwards, we're going to be back with match number 2 here in our 2022 playoffs.
Well, if the first match was the fuse being lit, then I'm telling you, fireworks are about to go off here, live from the Anaheim Convention Center. We're up to our second match of our Overwatch League 2022 playoffs. And this one is going to be a head-to-head rehash of rivalry between Eastern Region rivals, Matthew.
Yeah, and I totally agree with everybody taking the Shanghai Dragons in this series. Obviously, historically, a fantastic team outside of Season 1 in the Overwatch League. But I actually think the Hangzhou Spark is a team that, when you look at teams that potentially could cause upsets, right? You know, Guxue on the Winston, Shy on the Sojourn, like, you know, putting players in their best roles, you know, best heroes, like comfort picks, and they just have insane mechanical skill. I think they're a team that could really be a sleeper pick.
I mean, this is the same Hangzhou Spark that gave us an incredible 5-map series against the Los Angeles Gladiators in the mid-season madness, a team that really made a deep run in that bracket. It was a great time for them, a great metagame for them to shine. Things started to take a turn for the worse, though, as we moved into Summer Showdown and Countdown Cup. That's when the Sparks started to find themselves foundering just a little bit more. This team, though, like you mentioned, a huge roster, gigantic team, so many players that can be rotated in, and so many specialists that are waiting for their chance to take to the stage when the meta suits their best heroes. And you've already hinted at seeing Guxue, someone who we haven't seen much of lately, right? Bernard has been in at main tank for this Hangzhou Spark team, and they had to get through the play-ins. It was a 3-0 win against the Chengdu Hunters, but that game, both teams were throwing haymakers. This Spark has to hope that now is the time, the right time for them to peak, because going up against the Dragons is going to be quite the task indeed. Let's not waste any time, Matt. Let's jump into this. Let's welcome to the stage here at the Anaheim Convention Center, the Hangzhou Spark.
And I think this is going to be a good meta for the Spark. Is it good enough to beat the Dragons? I don't know, but I think if you were looking at, you know, players on heroes we know they can excel at, I think you have a really good shot with the players that the Spark is going to roll out here today.
We talked about a lot of the metrics in that last match, I feel, that made Hardy so successful, playing the Winston, coming in a main tank there. And one thing we really pointed out was his survivability, right? The fact that he's able to play up against these these Reaper-based compositions and still find success. That's definitely going to be something we're going to be looking out for on the side of the Spark here, because Guxue currently holds the title for the highest time alive as a Winston player and the fewest deaths in the entire league coming in to these playoffs. He has got to come alive here and stay alive in many of these fights to have that big impact.
Yeah, and I think you're really looking at Guxue and Shy. Like, if you're going to turn this series in favor of the Spark, you're going to have to see it from the Winston and the Sojourn that most likely you're going to see from this team. They have all of the mechanical skill that you could need to take it to a team like the Dragons. It's just the Dragons, you know, are going to come in as a, you know, well-oiled machine, right? They're going to be, you know, on the same page. They rarely make mistakes. Can the Spark play up to that level? The scary part with the Spark is sometimes we see that, sometimes we don't. Which Spark are you going to get here today?
And genuinely, if you want to look at previous results for this team, you know, spoilers, they haven't been exactly compelling against the Shanghai Dragons. You could probably throw that script out a little bit here, as we have a pretty significant shift in metagame. One thing that Eastern Overwatch fans have been treated to frequently is this matchup of Sojourns, right? Lip versus Shy. Either one of them can take the game over at the drop of a hat. I've got to be honest with you, we are dealing with a championship caliber team on the other side of the stage, so the Hangzhou Spark had better be ready for the Shanghai Dragons.
So the Dragons, we know, are tough for anybody to deal with.